India's Chief of Defence Staff, General Anil Chauhan, has said that while Pakistan was planning for a 48-hour operation on the 10th of May, India's military retaliatory action made Pakistan fold up in 8 hours and ask for a halt in hostilities. These comments by the CDS become especially significant after all of the fierce debate around his comments to Bloomberg, in which he responded to Pakistan claims of downed jets, saying only that Pakistan's claim of 6 jets downed was absolutely inaccurate, but that this entire conversation was irrelevant in the face of India's larger military triumph. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. On the program today, we look at the latest comments made by India's Chief of Defence Staff, General Anil Chauhan. General Chauhan made very, very interesting and very, very significant comments in his latest speech in Pune. Addressing a wide range of issues, General Chauhan likened Pakistan's defeat in Operation Sindoor to an innings defeat in a cricket match, wherein he said that discussing how many wickets the winning side may have lost was entirely irrelevant. His comments on cricket came on the day of the IPL final, so maybe that choice of the cricket metaphor was deliberate, but it did make its own strong point at a time when Pakistan's own dossier that has been shared in capitals across and around the world reveals that the scale of damage in India's retaliatory military action was much bigger than even what India has officially owned. The dossier shows that Karachi and Peshawar and Hyderabad in Pakistan were among locations where Pakistan, in fact, took a hit in its air defense systems. You can see excerpts of that dossier there. To talk about the latest statements made by the Chief of Defence Staff and the continuing sort of debate around whether he should have made those original comments to Bloomberg or not, let me introduce one of the world's leading air warfare experts and historians, Tom Cooper. He's back with us. His original comments and his Substack made headlines around the world, particularly here in India. Thank you, Tom, for your time. I wonder if you've been following all the latest sort of debates that are taking place in India, also in Pakistan. The Chief of Defence Staff in India was asked about Pakistan's claim of downed jets, and he said a couple of things. He said it was absolutely incorrect, Pakistan's claim on 6 downed jets, but he said that the numbers were not important because the eventual outcome is what counted. And he even spoke about how tactical mistakes that he believes were made on the first day were rectified, remedied in such a way that all jets, and I think he means all platforms, all jets were deployed again and they fired at long range. And he says the outcome was there for everybody to see. Before I play out the latest clip from General Chauhan, your take on these comments.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Nice to be with you today. So my commentary, a person or an officer, a professional military officer in his position has to, or his task is in this case to try explaining to the public and in particular to the media what is going on. And here it is important, and this is something I've pointed out already on 10th or 11th of May. India has its own narrative, which is that actually this all of this wouldn't have been necessary. Even after it has attacked originally, it was attacking, it was limiting its operation to striking terror camps. And had Pakistan accepted this fact, nothing would have happened. So after this, Pakistan attempted to switch or to steal the public narrative by explaining or claiming its air force and air defenses have shot down 6 Indian aircraft or even more. Eventually they have settled down for 6. And ever since we hear only this from Pakistan, we have shot down 6-0 and therefore we are victorious. And this is all that is kind of worth mentioning in regards of the entire operation. But this is simply not true, because Pakistan then attempted actually to retaliate, but failed in this regards, and not only once, but for the following 2 days or 3 days actually. And India defended itself effectively against all this retaliation while causing heavy damage to Pakistan. And that is the point. Pakistan ended this conflict defeated. And nowadays, you don't need to strike everywhere and to hit thousands of targets like this used to be the case even 20, 30 years ago. Nowadays, you strike 20, 30, perhaps 40 or 50 selected aim points precisely, and this is decisive for the outcome of the war. And this is the point in all of this, in this entire exercise. Whether you have then lost 2 or 3 or 4 aircraft in the process, it doesn't matter. What matters, and this is also something I pointed out right on the start, what does matter is the total outcome. And total outcome is a defeat of Pakistan to a degree that I'm sure members of the Indian Armed Forces are going to recall even in 50 years from now. And this is also one of the points. And when generals, or in this case marshals, are appearing in the to press conferences to give statements for them, they do not need to brag or something. They are actually rather relaxed and lean back, and for them, nobody can replace their professional achievement. Nobody from the press, nobody from no kind of civilian can tell them you have achieved so much. There's nothing more they can achieve in their professional life than they have achieved by 10th of May in the case of Indian top commanders. So whoever is now upset about figures they are mentioning or not mentioning, that's his own problem or her own problem. Point is, for them as generals, nothing that is stated in the public is of kind of importance of something relevant.
Yeah. Tom, it's so important what you've said, that the outcome is what matters, that Pakistan kept bringing up and even now keeps bringing up references to these jets. And, without talking about the outcome, which, as you have said before, and you are saying again, was an unambiguous, unequivocal defeat. And their attempts to breach Indian air defense systems failed. Now, this Chief of Defense Staff of India said something very similar in essence. He was asked a question by a young woman. This is after Bloomberg. He was at a public forum and a young person stood up and asked him a question about losses. And I want to just play out that clip for you on what he said, because it's something very similar to what you're pointing out. He said, listen, when there's a match, what matters is who won. If in the beginning, the winning team did a couple of things that, took a couple of knocks, it is entirely irrelevant. So I'm going to just play out this clip for you by General Anil Chauhan. Take a look.
Yes, please.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for your insightful lecture on future wars and warfare. So my question is, what are the losses incurred or experienced by Pakistani side during Operation Sindoor? And from this, what can be the potential strategic insight we can draw for future conflicts and the evolution of warfare?
Very nice question. When I was asked about losses on our side, I said these are not important. The results and how you act is important. So it would be not very correct to talk about losses, means numbers, etc. I'll give a detailed kind of an answer on this. Usually in a match, suppose you go into a football match and you win 3-2, you score 2 goals and you score 4 goals, so that's a given challenge. But suppose you go on in a test match, cricket test match, and you win by any defeat, then there's no question of how many wickets and how many balls and how many players. It's a heavy challenge. But since there is always this inquisitivity as to the result of your strikes, which was visible, which was more in psychological domain and what was visible to us, all of us, not to us, to globally, to everyone. So, based on technical parameters like electronic intelligence, signal intelligence, at some point of time, we will take out this particular data and share it with us to answer those queries and the inquisitiveness of people like you who keep telling me how many aircraft did we destroy, how many radars did we destroy. We will make a rough assessment of that and come out with that shortly.
One last question.
So, Tom, in a way, it's similar to the point you've made that he's saying that, look, I keep getting asked about these specifics about, what did you lose in terms of machines and so on? What did they lose in terms of machines and so on? The point is, what is conclusive, and nobody is arguing with it, is that this was a military victory. This is the point that you're making. So he borrows a sporting metaphor. And there have been many sporting metaphors used to explain this. A boxing bout where the victor takes a few bruises, natural. A cricket match in which the winning side loses a few wickets, doesn't necessarily play its best overs in the beginning, but then, completely rides home to victory. He's borrowing those metaphors to make the larger point that you're making. Why do you think Pakistan and so much of the Western media is fixating again and again on these claims of 6 down jets, which, by the way, the general says is absolutely incorrect. He doesn't deny that Jets took a hit, but he doesn't get into the numbers. He says, I won't get into the numbers because it's not relevant.
Well, they are trying to steal the public narrative. That is their purpose, to hide the defeat, a clear-cut defeat. They're trying to steal the public narrative and draw everybody's attention at 6-0. So this is their attempt. That is why they are emphasizing this. And nothing else has happened, but 6-0 has happened. This is Pakistani's point of view, and therefore it's a big victory. This is actually all there is to say in this regards. Again, it does matter that there were losses for India as well. And this does matter, but at tactical level, you have strategic, operational, and then tactical level. And at tactical level, and of course, personal level for families and relatives and friends of those who might have lost their lives, that is where it matters, no doubt about this. But in overall, when you win a war, you have won a war. You have suffered losses in the process, but you eventually won a war, and this is what matters from this point of view. This is why Indian officials are correctly refusing to become involved into some games of 6-0 or 6-4 or 6-6 or whatever it was. It is pointless. They have defeated Pakistan. And not only defeated Pakistan, they have disarmed. I mean, can you imagine this? There is a nuclear power and it's disarmed. This is the point. This is how far it came. By the morning of 10th of May, Pakistan was actually a country in possession of nuclear powers, nuclear warheads, but without the capability to deploy them. So no nuclear power in the end. This is if you have a gun or even a tank in your backyard, but you can't drive it and can't shoot its gun, then you have just a museum piece in your backyard. That's it all.
So you are saying that Pakistan's nuclear capacity was disarmed by India on the 10th of May?
Yes. That's what I say, because if you strike not only one, but 2, perhaps even more of nuclear storage facilities, and Pakistan can't hit back, then it's clear what is going on. That means that the side which is striking such facilities is in a position of absolute superiority. It might not have perfect aerial superiority or superiority on the ground or whatever, but in overall, it is winning the war, and the other side cannot even properly defend itself anymore. That's what matters.
So you are categorical in your assessment that while Pakistan is a nuclear armed state, India's air action basically left Pakistan unable to use, not that I'm saying that they were planning to, but factually, Pakistan's nuclear capacity was in a way unoperational.
Disabled.
Yeah.
This is the point. Again, we can now discuss how much of that capacity was disabled, how much of underground nuclear storage facilities were hit. We can discuss how many Indian missiles were shot down in the process. This is all nice and fine. But the point is, when Pakistan cannot strike upon India, and India wouldn't target such facilities if it could, if Pakistan still could, then it's absolutely pointless whether Pakistan has 20, 30, 40, 46 or 100,000 nuclear warheads. It can't hit. It can't even try to deploy them in terms of installing them on missiles or on combat aircraft and send them towards India. Game over, that's it. You really don't need anything more. It's really that simple.
Yeah. Your Substack, and that's of course the big turning point in this conflict, and that's why Pakistan keeps trying to deflect from it. You were among the first to write in your original Substack, Tom, that in Karachi, Pakistan's air defense system was hit, and China supplied air defense system was actually hit in such a way that it could not be used to protect the city of Karachi for the next couple of days. Now, what's very interesting is we were able to hear access a dossier that Pakistan has taken around the world, and in their own dossier, the scale of damage that India's retaliatory action, and I use the word retaliatory because the initial action was only on terror strikes and terror bases and not on military installations. But when Pakistan sent in drones and missiles and we hit back, Pakistan's admission is now in its dossier that Karachi, Peshawar, Hyderabad in Pakistan, Sakar in Sindh, these were areas where air defense systems of Pakistan took a hit. So talk a little bit about this, because I know that you were the first to point out, even before Indian media really understood its specifics, how Karachi came under attack, or Karachi's air defense system certainly came under attack.
It depends on what is now interesting for you. On one side, India has launched decoy UAVs in direction of Karachi, and Pakistani radars have detected these decoy UAVs, and of course the air defense systems were activated and went into action, and they began launching their missiles. So the more missiles they have launched, the better for Indian side. Why? Because decoys were shot down, that was fine and nice. But on the other hand, whenever the missile is fired, it takes some time for the operators of the missile to replace it, to install a new missile, to bring it into position, install it, and then ready it for fire action. So in this case, what happened, as the Pakistanis have spent their air defense missiles to hit Indian decoys, Indians have sent long-range UAVs to strike the positions, which is also what is also important in this regards, in particular about Karachi. One of the officers of the Pakistani Air Force, one of the officers operating this HQ-9 system in Karachi area, he was repeatedly posting photographs of his position of his launchers and other parts of the HQ-9 system in the suburbs of Karachi, and these photographs could be geolocated. So he was posting them in the social media, and thanks to such photographs, well, I could follow the action of his unit, and we can then bet that Indian armed forces were even more capable of following his action. Therefore, they were also able of pinpointing their position and striking them with long-range UAVs. And as I said, when you can have HQ-9 system with 500 rockets if you want, or surface-to-air missiles. But the point is this: if you fire all of them to target or at least half of them to target the decoys, then you have already 250. You're down to 250. If you then fire another 200 to target the incoming UAVs, then you're down to 50. And so the number is constantly decreasing, while Indians can continue striking with long-range UAVs as long as they want. And sooner or later, some of the UAVs came through, and it was rather sooner than later. They came through and started hitting elements of that HQ-9 SAM site. As a result of this, the radar was knocked out, the power generators were knocked out, and several launchers were knocked out. And so this is what I've been informed about at the time, and that's why I was one of the first to report about this. But
yeah.
I mean, this is a normal procedure. Sorry, yes?
Yeah, but talk a little bit about these decoys. The decoys detail is quite interesting, because basically you're saying that Pakistan's air defense in Karachi in particular may have spent a lot of its ammo on taking down decoys, while long-range missiles were basically taking out Pakistan's air defense in different cities, in particular in Karachi.
As far as I know, it was not so much, at least not initially, long-range missiles like Brahmos or Scalp that were hitting the air defenses in Karachi, but UAVs, long-range UAVs.
Okay, long-range UAVs. I stand corrected. Yes. Okay.
No problem. It's just, I'm trying to figure out for myself as well, because there are lots of reports and counter reports, and there's always some sort of controversy. And it's going to take lots of time. It's going to be years until both sides reveal exactly what was going on and why was it going on, and what kind of weaponry was used in what case. But in case of Karachi, as far as I know, it was long-range UAVs, not so much Brahmos or Scalps. So just like in eventually in Lahore as well, it was also long-range UAVs. That meant also India was not yet ready to escalate it to the maximum. At that point in time, I was talking these air defenses. It could have hit them even harder. It didn't. So this was also a message to Pakistan: get sane. Get yourself together. We can hit you even harder than this. But just this a little bit. This long range UAVs, nothing special. De facto toys. Steered by young boys, almost like in a video game. And we are disabling your air defense system. Get sane. Stop it. No, it was Pakistanis came back and retaliated again. So, it was also, all of this has to be seen as an exchange of messages as well.
Yeah.
Islamabad, get yourself together. Don't get hysteric. Cool down. We can stop this anytime. No, Islamabad does not want, comes back and sends 500 UAVs into India. Okay, we defend India by the means of air defenses, highly effective air defenses. 90% of your incoming UAVs and rocket artillery is shot down. Then we strike again, like a sword and a shield. You have shield is the air defense, and the sword is his own capability to strike deep into Pakistan. And if Pakistan is not listening, then you hit their air defenses. If it's not listening again, then you start hitting their air bases. Or like it happened during the night from, what was that, I'm not sure, 6th to 7th or 7th to 8th of May. There is an S-400 firing unit of the Indian Air Force deployed in the Amritsar area. This was moved quickly towards the border, took the Pakistanis by surprise, fired several, I think it was 4 missiles at one of the sub-2000 AWACS aircrafts flying over Kohat, really deep over Pakistan, some 300 kilometers something. And bam, either that aircraft was shot down, AWACS aircraft, or it was badly damaged. One of the two things. There is, because something big was crashed down, came down to the ground, crashed, and went it was destroyed by the fire. So something was hit over there. Whether destroyed or shot down, we don't know. Shot down or damaged, we don't know, but we are going to see. Anyway, this was also, the next step in escalation. This has pushed the Pakistani Air Force away from the border, and that meant more freedom for operation for the Indian Air Force, which in turn means striking from, approaching, getting closer to Pakistan before launching missiles, more flexibility in terms of what routes should the missiles take, and so on and so on. So it is just, confirming growing Indian superiority in the course of this war. And at some point in time, it came so far that Pakistan or Islamabad was kind of left without the choice. Okay, let's try it with ballistic missiles. What happens? Both are shot down. So after this, India said, okay, now enough is enough. We are striking nuclear facilities.
Yeah.
Again, game over, clear-cut victory. That is how such things are, done in modern times.
Can I ask you to comment on something very interesting? On the 10th of May, on the morning of the 10th of May, when Pakistan announced its own so-called operation, one of the things that the Chief of Defense Staff in India has said is that they were planning for at least a 48-hour operation, but we made sure that they folded in 8 hours.
Yeah.
Now, this is very interesting, because on the 10th of May, I remember being on the ground in Jammu, waking up at 5 in the morning to the sound of explosions of Pakistani drones, missiles that they were still trying to, send into Indian cities, including in populated areas where they were being intercepted by Indian air defense. It looked like the war was peaking. It looked like it was peaking, right? There was a missile intercepted 200 kilometers from Delhi. This is when Pakistan made this big announcement: we have launched our own operation against India. Within 8 hours that evening, the Pakistan Director General of Military Operations had called the Indian DGMO and said, look, we're ready to back off. And that's how the halt or the so-called ceasefire, not a word that India uses, took place. I want you to talk about what you think happened in those 8 hours, because the CDS says they were planning for 48 hours, they had to fold in 8.
Well, from what I know, it is so that Pakistan is 48 hours operation, but Pakistan was launched already on 7th of May, not just on 10th of May. So it was, and you have to keep in mind they had a limited number of ammunition and limited number of operators. They cannot waste thousands and thousands and thousands. No, it's limited to 500 per day, something like that, in terms of UAVs and artillery rockets they could fire up on India. So they were planning to disable Indian air defense system and then send their air force in. And they started attempting to disable the Indian air defense system on the evening of 7th of May, as far as I know. By 9th of May, they was already so actually desperate that they've sent their air force into strikes on Indian air defense systems. That means not only their JF-17s equipped with this Chinese-made air-launched ballistic missiles, anti-radar ballistic missiles, with which they are claiming to have hit one S-400, but lots of other things. They have deployed a number of RAD cruise missiles, which are similar in function and performance to the Storm Shadow, or actually Scalp EG, deployed by Indian Air Force. And they have deployed a number of other guided weapons by the Air Force, and this did not work.
But can I interrupt there? Can I interrupt there? Because I was just looking this up. It's on the 10th of May that they actually named their operation Operation Bunyan ul Marsus.
Bunyan Marsus, yes.
Yes. I don't, as far as I can tell, this happens only on the morning of the 10th of May.
You should keep in mind, Barkha, please keep in mind that one thing is making this public and other thing is actually launching this operation. These are two entirely different things. You can launch an operation, a week in advance, week before you're making this public, so to say. I don't recall exactly when have I heard the first time for Bunyan Marsus. I think it was even on the 8th or 9th of May, definitely. But anyway, the point is this: as far as I'm informed, they've launched this 48 hours operation already much earlier, and then it took India 8 hours to hit, specific headquarters, specific air bases, and specific underground storage facilities. This is what matters eventually. We are going to sort out the details all the time. The exact chronology is not yet clear precisely, but we are going to sort it out all the time. Point is, again, I agree with CDS commentary. Pakistanis are planning 48 hours. Eventually, had to expand this to 56 hours or something, and it didn't work. Whatever they have thrown up on India, it didn't work. They didn't get through. They were not causing damage to Indian armed forces, or at least not sufficient damage to weaken them to any important degree. On the contrary, Indian armed forces were hitting selected targets precisely inside Pakistan. Again, as simple as that.
Yeah, I want to, you remember when we last spoke, we were talking about funerals of terrorists killed that were attended by Pakistan military.
Yes.
In the last few hours, we have a significant politician from Pakistan's Punjab state, which is its most influential province. The speaker of the assembly, who's a very senior politician in Pakistan, he has basically defended Hafiz Saeed, who's the terrorist who leads the Lashkar-e-Taiba. That was one of the bases that India targeted initially on the first night of Operation Sindoor. I just want to play out this clip for you, and then we'll talk a little bit about what you think may happen next. Yeah.
मेरा सैफुल्लाह कसूरी साहब के निस्बत प्रोफेसर तलाह साहब के साथ मेरी तल्लुकदारी किसी ऐसी बुनियाद की वजह से नहीं है। मेरा एक रिश्ता है हाफिज सईद साहब के साथ, मेरे वालिद मरहूम के साथ उनका बहुत गहरा तल्लुक था। मलिक रशीद साहब के साथ उनका भाइयों जैसा रिश्ता है। हमें इनके साथ इस मरकजी मुस्लिम लीग को हम अपनी दूसरी जमात समझते हैं और हम समझते हैं कि ये लोग पाकिस्तान की खिदमत करने वाले लोग हैं।
I'll just translate that for you. He's saying my father and Hafiz Saeed are like family. They're like brothers. And I believe that Hafiz Saeed has done great service in the nation, for the nation, that is Pakistan. He's a mainstream, significant Pakistani politician who is basically complimenting and praising the head of an internationally proscribed terrorist group. The Lashkar-e-Taiba is recognized to be a terrorist group by the United States and the United Kingdom, among other countries. So, and he's praising this man and saying that this man, this terrorist, has done great work for Pakistan. Now, you know, it is when you see this that you actually think that the world, large sections of the world, are still not getting how terrorists are being groomed inside Pakistan with the blessings of the Pakistani state.
This is what I'm explaining for decades already. That was, I mean, it began already, what was that, 97, 98, 99, when Pakistani inter-service intelligence was de facto, not de facto, actually, it was commanding, controlling Taliban offensives into northern Afghanistan. And it had officers on the spot commanding their operations, running their logistics system and so on. I mean, for me, it began in terms of I'm explaining this to people and nobody listens. So, I mean, for me, it is not new. When you talk with Pakistanis, they are all going to, oh no, this is not 1980s. This is 2025, and we don't have such relations to terrorists anymore, and we don't have terrorist camps, and we don't have jihadists. We are not organizing, establishing, actually, not only organizing, but establishing, organizing, financing, training, commanding and controlling such organizations anymore. And then you have such TV appearances, and you hear something entirely different. So it's a constant game Pakistan is playing all the time. Problem is that nobody in the West is paying attention about this appearance. This is the first time I see this TV appearance and his speech. Hear about it. Nobody is paying attention about this. Just like nobody or hardly anybody in the West is currently paying attention about the fact that as of 10th of May, Pakistan was nuclearly disarmed. It was no nuclear power anymore. This is, I said, look, squirrel up there, so let's distract with something else and don't care about the situation down there. Who cares?
But you've said a big thing. You've said on the 10th of May, Pakistan was not a nuclear power anymore.
Yes. Because if it would have been one, trust me, I mean, you don't need to trust me. You don't need to believe me anything at all. New Delhi wouldn't dare strike in such places like, Murid or Kirna Hills. They wouldn't play with such options. If there was a trace of chance that Pakistan would have deployed nuclear weapons after these strikes, or even before them, New Delhi wouldn't, whether politicians no top commanders of armed forces would ever agree to strike such facilities. Because nobody is as irresponsible as to play with such facilities. Perhaps Pakistanis are, but Indians definitely not.
Let's talk in the end about what you think might happen next. You have a army chief in Pakistan who is elevated to field marshal. You have India, our government saying this is a halt, it's a pause, it's not the end of the operation. The world is watching, but the world is also distracted. As you said, the West didn't even understand the magnitude of what happened on the 10th of May in terms of Pakistan being disarmed on its nuclear capacity. Now there is the Ukrainians, which you have written about in your Substack, the Ukrainians, smuggling in drones into Russia and doing what they've done. Asymmetric warfare is here, and India will have to remain ever vigilant, despite the superiority that has been shown by India in this military Operation Sindoor. What is your reading of the situation going forward, especially as drone warfare becomes the new normal?
Well, for one side, I think that Islamabad might never show it, but it is learning its own lessons. And when it comes to nuclear facilities, you don't play with drones in retaliation for that. This is something that one is taking damn seriously. And I think that on one side, this war might have similar effects like the war, India-Pakistan war of 1971, when India defeated Pakistan, de facto created Bangladesh from eastern Pakistan, former eastern Pakistan, and defeated Pakistan also in the west. And then afterwards, there was 25 something years or even more of peace between the two countries, more or less peace. If at all, Pakistan was trying it by other means in the 1980s, but this is a different story. So I hope that there is going to be at least a decade of, lesser tensions until somebody in Pakistan comes to the idea to provoke again, or finds a new way to do so. On the other side, yes, it is definitely possible that somebody is over there is so frustrated, so vengeful that he comes to the idea, okay, now let's do something similar and drive trucks or smuggle trucks filled with UAVs into India and try to hit India as well. Could happen. It's definitely easier than to do so than let's say send a group of special forces or terrorists into India, except one sends them per sea, like this was the case in Mumbai attack. But generally, I think that well, at least I hope that reason is going to prevail, and that Pakistan is going to learn its lessons, even if not officially.
But sorry. I know you're saying that Pakistan will quietly learn its lessons. Maybe it'll hunker down. But look at this photograph. I just played out the clip of the Pakistan speaker supporting the Lashkar-e-Taiba chief. In this photograph, the same man, the Speaker of the Punjab Assembly, is seen sharing a stage with Hafiz Saeed's son. He's just praised the father, and Hafiz Saeed's son is there. And a terrorist that India believes to be involved in the Pahalgam terror attack that led to this entire operation, Saifullah Qusuri, is also seen on this stage. So, when we say Pakistan may learn its lessons, at least the military might, when we see this open support of prescribed terrorists, their families, their associates, what do we make of it?
Well, I don't know what are you making out of this in India, but I would say even such hawks like all of these fanatics can learn their lessons, and if you hit them really hard, and India hit them really hard on 7th of May, then they are going to think twice before doing something again. I mean, one thing is statements for the public and bragging about victory, or we are going to retaliate, or he was my brother and my blood and whatever else, and my blood is boiling, or whatever statements come to one's mind. Another thing is actual action. I mean, if you try to pull something of this kind, like Pakistan has done on 22nd of April, and then get hit this hard by India, like this happened between 7th and 10th of May, then you really have to think. I mean, you're talking here about countermeasures you need to undertake in order to try something similar again, which are taking years to realize. You cannot rebuild your nuclear weapon storage facilities in a matter of days. You cannot do that even in a matter of weeks or months. This is taking years. Then you have your entire system for control of nuclear weapons. This is something like integrated air defense system just for nuclear weapons, where you want to control these weapons. You have to have them under tight control. What is happening in Pakistan? They have lost this system. It was disabled by Indian airstrikes, which means again Pakistan has a big problem, has to rebuild this as well. Then you want to protect such sites and not experience a similar catastrophe the next time again, which means you need new air defense systems. Then you want to finally make an integrated air defense system which is well integrated and functioning. As it turned out, Pakistani was not that well integrated, or at least partially not functioning, whatever. Eventually it was defeated, disabled, and so that was that. This all costs money. And I'm talking about billions of money, which Pakistan does not have. So now that means they first have to talk with Qataris, whether the Qataris are ready to finance such a rebuild and rearmament. Then both Pakistanis and Qataris have to sit down with the Chinese and talk with the Chinese, whether the Chinese are in agreement to supply the necessary equipment, just for example. Because the Chinese are also not delighted about all of this. From what I've heard from a contact in China, they say Pakistani fighters were shooting PL-15s like crazy around and from maximum range over 300 kilometers and missing actually most of the time. So he says that the mass of PL-15s has missed. He wouldn't say what number, but if you deduct from the number of Indian combat aircraft confirmed by visual evidence provided by the Indian social media, then we can conclude, okay, it was probably some 20, 30, perhaps more missiles they have fired, and perhaps 4 of them have hit. Almost certainly 3, but 4 is more likely. So that means that they have actually shot so many missiles and 90% of them has missed. This is not something Pakistan is going to brag about, and not something the Chinese are delighted about. Why? Because the actual capabilities of the PL-15 has now been revealed in the public.
Yeah.
India knows about them and now can develop countermeasures, because as soon as you know the capabilities of the weapon, you can start developing countermeasures against them. Chinese are not delighted about this, believe me. The Chinese are not delighted by the fact that HQ-9 and HQ-16 systems have been knocked out. They are not delighted by they have deployed several LY-80 radars to Pakistan, which are very modern systems. They have, at least 2 have been destroyed by Indian airstrikes. They are not happy about this because this is a defeat of Chinese arms. So you can you have to weigh all of these options. You can't say now it is now going to take 2 or 3 weeks or 2 years or 20 years for Pakistan to rebuild. This is going to take immense volumes of efforts and money and time for Pakistan to recover. And only once it's recovered, if they still have more than 2 brain cells, it's only once they have all of this in place again, should they think about trying again. So whatever they are currently stating on the TV or whatever, nice and fine. But I do not bite. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, I would only hope that better sense has finally prevailed in Pakistan. But as you say, that there is a cost to this defeat. The cost the cost is not only in the damaged air bases and the capacity, Pakistan's nuclear capacity disabled on the 10th of May, as you point out, but a cost to rebuilding this, and Pakistan's economy is already living on borrowed money. So I think that's a big point to note. Thank you so much, Tom. Always learn a lot from you. Thanks very much for your time and your insights, and hope to talk to you again very soon. Take care.
Very much my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me again, and all the best to India.
Thank you. Take care. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Vote Her Story and support independent, robust journalism.